Welcome back in. We are on to week 17, which means if you're probably watching this, that means you made it to the fantasy championships. Congratulations on that. But again, not finished. Job is not finished, like Kobe said. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start with our top streaming options of the week at the quarterback position. And we're going to start with, well, one, I want to mention Trevor Lawrence because it says he's rostered in like 65% of Yahoo and ESPN leagues. If for whatever reason he was sitting out there, he should not be. The dude has been on an absolute heater the last month and a half of the season. I mean, I did not expect today that they were going to go into Denver and put the beat down on them that they really did in that game. And Trevor Lawrence has just been phenomenal. So if he's sitting out there, he's the clear, best ad of the week and at quarterback position. And they're playing the Colts, great matchup. So, but on ones that aren't that widely available, we're going to start with Tyler Shook. Shook is only rostered in 13% of leagues. It has been one of the most consistent fantasy quarterbacks the last month of the year. Today against the Jets, he completed 32 passes for 308 yards and a score for 17 fantasy points. While he doesn't offer, I think, a huge ceiling, he hasn't surpassed 22 fantasy points in a game, but he has scored 17 or more in 5 of his last 6. And next up for the Saints is a road matchup against the Titans defense that has been dreadful against opposing quarterbacks, unless they're playing the Chiefs. They have allowed 8 of the last 9 quarterbacks to have a QB1 performance, and they have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. So Tyler Shook is definitely, I think, the best streaming option of the week if you are needing a quarterback. After that, I think Malik Willis is interesting. Willis took over for Jordan Love, who exited with a concussion on Saturday night against the Bears. Willis performed well, completed 9 of 11 passes for 121 yards and a score. He also rushed 10 times for 44 yards. If Love is unable to clear the protocol in time for their Saturday night home matchup against the Ravens, Willis should be the starting quarterback. Now, it should be mentioned that Willis is also dealing with a little bit of an injury. He picked up a shoulder injury during that game, so his status will need to be monitored. But we could also see that where a scenario where the Packers have already clinched the playoffs and don't even need to play any of their guys, and maybe that's where you see Clayton Tune starting for this team because the Lions need to win on Christmas Day to keep their chances alive of making the playoffs. So that is definitely something we'll have to monitor. But I think Malik Willis is at least worth a look, especially with his rushing upside. We haven't really seen it this year because they haven't really needed him. But last year he did have a game where he scored 26 fantasy points. So I think Malik Willis is at least worth a look. And then next up, you'd have to be really desperate to play any of these next quarterbacks. I mean, we're in the fantasy championship. I can't imagine that you don't have a starting quarterback that's better than these. But in the event that you don't, Geno Smith, I think, is at least worth a look. The Raiders' offense has been a disaster for most of the season. Today's game against the Texans is proof of how volatile fantasy football, though, can be because the Raiders had a 12-point implied team total heading into this week against one of the best defenses in the league against the Texans. Well, the Raiders made the game close, losing 23-21. Geno completed 16 of 23 for 201 yards and 2 scores for 16 fantasy points. Next up, though, is a phenomenal matchup to end the fantasy season against a Giants defense that has allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. And like I said, you would have to be really desperate to play Geno Smith in a championship game. But I will say at the very least, the matchup is there. And then lastly, Cam Ward. Speaking of desperation, Cam Ward is another option you could look at. The rookie quarterback has been playing significantly better since their Week 10 bye. He's now scored 15 or more fantasy points in 3 of their last 5 games and has also thrown a touchdown pass and 3 straight as well. Today against the Chiefs, he completed 21 of 28 for 228 passing yards, 2 scores for 18 fantasy points. Next up will be a home matchup against the Saints. So let's keep moving here. Let's move over to the running back position where that's where we have a lot to talk about because we definitely had a significant injury today. Today we saw Quinshon Judkins go down with a brutal season-ending injury. He fractured his fibula and dislocated his ankle. Now, Dylan Sampson also missed that game as well with a hand and calf injuries. So Raheem Rocket Sanders led the way with 11 carries for 42 yards and had 1 catch for 4 yards. And then it was Travion Williams also mixed in as a pass-catching back. As far as Week 17 is concerned, if Dylan Sampson can return, he would likely get the majority of the touches, and he would easily be one of the best waiver ads of the week, if not the top waiver ad of the week, that of players that are widely available. But if he's not able to go, I think it would be Raheem Sanders would be the priority ad. And this is a situation we obviously will need to monitor closely as one of these running backs could be a useful flex option against the Steelers. Next up, let's move over to Emmanuel Wilson. Now, there was speculation all week with Josh Jacobs whether he'd be able to play or not. He ended up gutting it out, but he didn't look good at all. I mean, he looked terrible. I have no idea why he was even out there. He finished with 12 carries for 36 yards and also lost a pretty critical fumble during that game. And like I said, at some point, you have to wonder the Packers would be better off sitting Jacobs because Emmanuel Wilson looks really good. And he looks significantly better than Josh Jacobs. Carried the ball 14 times for 82 yards. If Jacobs were to miss, Wilson would be a strong RB2 play against the Ravens. Next up is going to be Tyjae Spears, rostered in 25% of leagues. Spears had his best game of the season today against the Chiefs. He rushed 13 times for 52 yards and a score. He also caught all 5 of his targets for another 53 yards, finished with 21 PPR points. A very encouraging game for the explosive running back. It seems like this is starting to enter a timeshare territory, making Spears at least a solid play in PPR formats against the Saints, who allow the 14th most PPR points to running back. So I do think Spears is at least worth an ad and at least worth a look if you are desperate in the PPR league. Next up is going to be Michael Carter. Now, I put him on here but I do find it hard to believe that Carter is actually available in any competitive league. But he says he's only rostered in 42% of Yahoo leagues. But if he is available, Carter is one of the top ads of the week because, today he wasn't anything special. He rushed 11 times for 65 yards, was targeted twice as well. Obviously, nothing special. But the Cardinals now travel to Cincinnati to take on a Bengals defense that has allowed the most fantasy points to opposing running backs. So Michael Wilson, if he's sitting out there, is also an incredible ad. Next up, let's just a couple other guys I want to hit on. I kind of went back and forth even adding them because this is the Fantasy Championships. But Chris Rodriguez, rostered in 28% of leagues. Rodriguez returned after a 1-week absence, carried the ball 15 times for 63 yards and a touchdown for 14 PPR points against the Eagles. Now, it should be mentioned, JCM or Bill also touched the ball 16 times. This is a full-on timeshare now. I can't imagine you'd be so desperate to play Rodriguez. But if things were at that point, he does get a great matchup against the Cowboys, who allow the 10th most PPR points to running backs and on Christmas Day. And then Jawar Jordan, rostered in 8% of leagues. Jordan had another productive day with Woody Marks sitting out. Jordan ended up splitting touches with Nick Chubb. Jordan finished with 15 carries for 53 yards and was targeted additional 5 times. He caught all 5 of those for another 17 yards, finishing with 11 PPR points. He ended up playing 30 of 62 snaps. I do think Woody Marks likely is back next week against the Chargers, but if he can't go, I think Jordan would be another viable flex play as well. Now let's move over to the wide receiver position. And first, we're going to talk about is Troy Franklin, rostered in about 48% of Yahoo leagues. After a rough few weeks for Franklin, he bounced back, scoring 20 PPR points in Week 15. And then this week against the Jaguars, he scored another 10 PPR points, securing 4 or 5 targets for 66 yards. He operated as the number 2 wide receiver behind Cortland Sutton. We also saw Pat Bryant leave on a stretcher after taking a brutal hit. Next up is a quick turnaround on Thursday night matchup on Christmas against a very beat-up Chiefs defense. Franklin should be viewed as a low-end wide receiver 3. Next up is going to be Parker Washington, rostered in 22% of leagues. Washington had a monster day today against the Broncos, catching 6 of 10 for 145 yards and a score for 26 PPR points. He ended up running a route on 32 of Lawrence's 47 dropbacks. He also led the team in air yards. Now, matchup played a role here as Surtain seemingly took away Brian Thomas, but with how well Trevor Lawrence is playing, Washington should be viewed as a flex option against a Colts defense that allowed the 3rd most PPR points to wide receivers. Let's move over to Luther Burden. He's only rostered in 16% of leagues. Burden missed Week 16 with an ankle injury. If he is available in Week 17, he would be a wide receiver 3 play against a depleted 49ers defense. If Burden and Odunze miss another week, I think you could look at Olamide Zaccheaus as a plug-and-play wide receiver 4. And then lastly, guys, they think you definitely could add is Shamiri DK. DK caught 3 of 5 for 40 and a score for 13 PPR points. It's been a solid rookie season for DK. Since Week 7, he has had 5 games scoring 12 or more PPR points in 9 total games. There is certainly volatility with his profile, but he has seen 5 or more targets in 4 of his last 5 games. And with the Titans offense playing significantly better and DK's return ability to house a touchdown also adds a little bit more upside with his profile, I think DK is at least a decent wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, basically a flex option against the Saints. And now in deeper formats, I think there's a couple other plays you could probably look at. Darius Slayton is always going to be involved. Isaac Tesla, is definitely involved inside the red zone. Kendrick Bourne is definitely one we could look at as well with Ricky Pearsall being out with this PCL injury that he re-aggravated. So Kendrick Bourne could actually be a pretty solid play. Obviously, they haven't played. They play on Monday night. And then Trey Tucker was heavily involved this week as well. And with an incredible matchup coming against the Giants, you probably could look there as well. But again, probably a little bit desperate to play him. So lastly, let's move over to tight ends. We're going to start with Brenton Strange. And now Britton Strange makes this list seemingly for the 15th time this season. Today against the Broncos, Strange caught 5 of 7 targets for 39 yards and a score for 14 PPR points. This was a strong bounce back performance after 2 down weeks. Strange continues to be a usable tight end and gets a matchup next week against the Colts, who allow the 10th most PPR points to tight ends. Next up is going to be Dalton Schultz. Now, Schultz caught 4 or 5, all 5 of his targets for 35 yards and a touchdown for another 14 PPR points. Schultz now ranks on the year 4th in receptions, 6th in receiving yards. What's really hurt him this year has been touchdowns, which as he only has 2 of those, which ranks 32nd among tight end. But he's done really well in all other departments. Schultz overall in the season is averaging 10.5 PPR points, and Schultz will be a borderline tight end 1 this week against the Chargers. Next up is going to be AJ Barner. Since Elijah Arroyo went down, Barner has taken full advantage of the opportunity. This past Thursday, Barner caught 4 of 6 targets for 49 yards and a touchdown for 14 PPR points. He's now received 12 targets over the last 2 games, which is a very healthy number. And Barner and the Seahawks now travel to Carolina to take on a Panthers defense that allows the 13th most PPR points to tight ends. Barner should be viewed as a high-end tight end 2 in Week 17. And lastly, Mike Gesicki. Gesicki caught 3 of 4 for 35 yards and a touchdown for 12 PPR points. There's plenty of volatility here, but Gesicki has scored 12 or more PPR points in 2 of his last 3 games, and now gets an incredible spot against a Cardinals defense that allows the 6th most PPR points to tight end. So let's keep moving here. Let's move over to let's keep it over to some questions. Got Retro in here. Good to see you. I started Corum, like you said, good call. I sacked Chris Rodriguez, but Kareem Hunt, though. Hunt's going to waiver wire championships. Here I come. Love to hear that. Definitely love to hear that. That's what we're here for. Do you think Diggs can be trusted again next week over McConkey? I mean, obviously, it was a huge performance from him, but like he has been extremely volatile. Now, I will say it was really encouraging to see the Chargers drop back as much as they did today. But this is a much tougher spot though for McConkey. Keep in mind they're going to be playing the Texans, and with the Chargers offensive line, it really could get pretty brutal for that team. So I would probably go Diggs over McConkey because that against that Texans defense, it is going to be brutal out there for them. I think they're going to try to run the ball a lot. We'll see, but I would probably prefer Diggs to McConkey at this point. I would play 2 of DJ Moore, McConkey, Diggs, Godwin, and Pollard. I think you at least have to look at like Pollard, the way Pollard's been playing recently. I mean, he's been playing really well the last month, and now you get the Saints. So, and you're definitely with all the injuries the Bears have. I mean, you probably are going to play DJ Moore, and you probably play Diggs though. I think it probably makes the most sense. Yeah, for him, it's really going to depend on. I think for them, it's really going to depend on Luther Burden's health. Coming in, but they've already clinched a playoff spot. Now they're still playing for seeding, and so I think that's at least a plus here. So at least they're trying to play for something. So where you start getting some of these teams might sit some of these guys, but you can still see the Bears be since they do have a playoff spot locked up. You could see them be a little bit more cautious and not rushing any of these guys back, so they're ready to go for the playoffs. Would you pick up Quentin Johnson to play him over Devonta Smith? Probably not. The same thing I just talked about. Started Saints defense. Yeah, they were really good. Good move. However, Saints and Seahawks got a great matchup. What are we going with? I mean, the Titans offense is actually like I said, has actually been playing a little bit better. They've actually done a better job of also protecting Cam Ward. They also got their left tackle today, so that was a plus for them. But they've actually done a better job of keeping him upright as far as sacks are concerned. Because I mean, through the first half of the year, Cam Ward was getting absolutely destroyed behind their offensive line. But their offensive line has actually played better in recent weeks, and so which is why we've seen that offense play a little bit better. I still think the Saints are a pretty good defense. I don't think they've got everything fixed on that offense or on that defense or on that offense, excuse me. The Seahawks also, I think, are an okay play against the Panthers. The Panthers definitely are a team that really want to run the ball. I can see that game being very low pace and low scoring because these are two teams that really want to run the ball and feature their running backs. And so It does worry me a little bit, but I still think the Seahawks are also a pretty good play. Right now, I probably would have the Seahawks over the Saints though, but I'll have that out probably Tuesday. Can we trust Christian Watson? I really depends on the quarterback situation and everything that goes on this week. So I mean, like I've said, like there's a scenario if somehow the Lions lost to the Vikings, if that happened, then I think that changes a lot of different conversations because then if the Lions were to lose, then the Packers are out of the playoffs, or the Packers, excuse me, are in the playoffs. They would have clinched a playoff spot. So at that point, with Jordan Love coming off a concussion and Malik Willis, like we could actually see like Clayton Tune playing on Saturday night against the Ravens. So there's a lot of different things that have to take place for really I would feel good about it or not. I'll look at Pollard to help back too because yeah, I mean I did too. Like the Chiefs have actually been a really good run defense, but it's clear that the Chiefs have just packed it in. Like there was, if you watched that Chiefs game, which if you did, I feel sorry for you because it was brutal to watch. But like there's no fight whatsoever in that team anymore. Like they have pretty much packed it in. They're ready to go to Cancun, ready for the season to be over. The Titans offense, which is very lacking of any weapon, pretty much kind of did what they wanted, ran all over them. Pollard had over 100 yards, just got lost at the goal line to get that opportunity. So glad I started Waller, yeah, or Goddard over Waller, yes. All of the fringe, high hyped tight ends this week really didn't do a whole lot. Darren Waller, Colby Parkinson, like it was a rough week for the streaming tight end group. Dallas Goddard was very good, but he's been really good. I mean, especially once they get to the goal line, once he gets to the red zone, they really look for Dallas Goddard down there, so that helps. I lost Neighbors earlier in the year, and Adams probably won't play again this week. The only positive for Adams is that they play on Monday, so it does give him some extra time to heal and rest up. So it's possible that Devontae Adams could play, but I probably wouldn't hold my breath though, considering they've also clinched a playoff spot. If you were to pick Schultz, Strange, or Barner, who I would probably go Strange, then Barner, then Schultz, probably. It's just a little bit tougher of a matchup for Schultz against the Titans. Generally speaking, the Titans are pretty good, or Titans, against the Chargers, excuse me. Titans. Against the Chargers. And the Chargers, like with Derwin James, tend to be very stingy against tight ends. So I don't love it as much. I still think he's a decent play. Like he's not a bad play by any means, but I would prefer Strange and AJ Barner over him. So that being said, I think it's the last question we have in here. I appreciate everybody rocking with us. Appreciate everybody checking it out. We are on to Christmas week. It is championship week. There was a lot going on for a lot of people this week. Obviously, with all the holiday festivities going on this week and football. We're gonna have football on Thursday and Saturday and Sunday and Monday. And so like Phase Championship week is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to try to figure out how I'm going to do the schedule this week to get everything out. But obviously, normally we'd go live on Wednesday nights. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen with that being Christmas Eve. So I think about going live on Tuesday night to answer start set stuff. Maybe be able to do like waiver stuff as well, kind of add it into the mix. But and then I was thinking about maybe going live on Saturday night or something like that. But by that point, we've had quite a few games already happen. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But it is a little bit different with the holidays and everything. So appreciate it. I hope everybody gets wins this week. Let's wrap it up. Let's finish strong. Let's get them championships. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.